This is the all-new Range Rover Sport, and this one is a P440e, which is a plug-in hybrid version of the third generation of the Range Rover Sport. Believe it or not, even with Range Rover's legacy, the Sport model actually only came out in the mid-noughties, so this is the third generation of it. It starts from €111,000 here in Ireland, and this version you're looking at in the video today is list priced at €125,000. Is there a better way to move your body around from A to B? I'm not sure there is, because this is absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to take a massively in-depth look at the new Range Rover Sport today in huge detail. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do. You'll get us across the line at over 30,000 subscribers. This is a fully independent Irish YouTube channel, and your support is really, really appreciated. Welcome to Not Beyond Cars. Now, some interesting facts on the new Range Rover, just for the nerds among us. There's a man from Dundalk called Rory O'Murcu, and he leads Land Rover's division on the Range Rover. So come on, Ireland, for starters. A guy from Dundalk had to sign off on that car and the new full-on Range Rover. And then in the last 12 months or so, Jaguar Land Rover have hired an ex-Aston Martin guy, and he's going to help design the software part of this car, because the physical car was built by the time he joined the company. But the idea of this Range Rover is to have a fully electric version of it by 2024. And you may not be familiar, but BMW and Land Rover have joined forces to create this kind of platform and this kind of electrification of the Range Rover. So the guy who joined from Aston Martin is called Mike Becker, and he helped design the Aston Martin DBX, which, as I'm sure you know, is a fairly expensive SUV. So in theory, designing something not quite as expensive should be fairly easy. Don't ever let anybody tell you that reviewing cars is glamorous, by the way. I'm on the side of a windswept mountain. It's about 4 degrees. There's mist, there's fog, there's drizzle, there's everything. So the red brake calipers are an actual no-charge extra. You mightn't want them. We're sitting on 22-inch alloys. You can go up to 23. They're about 1,900 quid as an optional extra, because this is the bog standard version of the Range Rover Sport. It's an SE, but it still comes fairly jam-packed. There's bits of coppery bronze here. You've got LED lights in the front. They're actually the smallest headlights ever fitted to a Range Rover. They're just kind of compact. It's like nice. You have your indicators and cameras all over the place. The sensors, blind spot going on in those mirrors. You'll also notice that these handles pop out. So if you press that, they lock and everything pulls in and it locks itself. And then you just press that button with keyless to open the handles on the car. It also has the largest spoiler ever fitted to a Range Rover. Who knew? It's got 0.29 of a drag coefficient, which is not amazing, but for a car this size and this bulk is all right. These bits of chrome for the exhaust, there are actual exhaust in there. Bit of a fake diffuser going on. And you have big bulky Range Rover lettering across the back of the car. And two shark fin aerials on top. One of them has a camera discreetly hidden inside. Electronic tailgate is also standard. It would want to be for the price of the car, starting again from €111,000. Another interesting fact about the boot in the Range Rover is it's 647 litres, and there's no compromise if you go for the plug-in hybrid. There is a diesel, by the way. It's also a 3 litre, but the VRT, because of the CO2 on it, actually makes it very expensive to buy. This is the one you want. So you got boot partitions. They'll hold up nicely. A couple of red, very obvious buttons that tie it down again. You have a parcel shelf. You have shopping hooks, 12-volt chargers. You have nets. You can lower and raise the suspension from here if you want to load in animals and items. And there's also a button for the left and right split on the rear passenger seats. And they'll go back up as well as down using that button. Clever boot. It should probably come as no surprise to you that your passengers in the back are treated very well indeed. It's salubrious around here. Nice big armrest, lovely access to the cup holders, lovely smooth fluid movements, a little bit of a storage tray in here. It has all been thought out, you know, very carefully thought out. You've got heated seats on your outer passenger seats because this model is built on a chassis that is going to be fully electric. You have a flat floor, you've got a bit of charging options down here, you've got your own individual vents for your passengers, a bit of storage back here, great visibility at the front of the cabin, and this over €3,000, yes, €3,000 glass panoramic sunroof floods the light in here, just adding to that feeling of spaciousness which is everywhere. There is a setting here for the seats, and you can obviously sit more upright and give yourself a bit more space in that massive boot anyway, but yeah, if you just want a bit of extra space, you can do that with the rear seats. This part of the Range Rover Sport is where the magic happens. Those thuds from the door just confirm to you that you're into something that is strong. Now, it's 35% more rigid than the previous model Range Rover, but if you put some fuel into this and a couple of humans, it tops out at over 3 ton. So there are times, and it's happened to me a couple of times in car parks. First of all, you kind of get some disapproving looks from people in this car. It's just very flash looking. There is a cost of living crisis going on, and you can kind of feel the tuts as you drive by certain people. That said, you can also do it in complete zero emissions, so, you know, educate yourselves. Anyway, if someone walks out in front of you, as has happened a couple of times, just pedestrians, you know how pedestrians act sometimes, you are flooring it, but just the sheer mass of the car, I mean flooring the brake by the way, not at the sheer mass of the car, it can take a little bit of a second or so to stop. In fact, tests of this car have shown that it is one of the slowest stopping cars at motorway speeds that some serious testers have tested, because it is so heavy. So sometimes people might think you're actually not about to stop for them when you're trying your best. So there's a lovely curved screen here. Yes, there's a lot of screen stuff going on versus physical buttons. That said, there are physical buttons for your climate. You push them and twist them for your heated seats. Opposite way for your air-cooled seats. There's all the different modes that you want to mess around with here. There's electric lock differentials. There's an auto setting that you can just let the car figure out itself what you want to try and do here. It's the first Range Rover that has off-road cruise control. So let's say you want to maintain a speed of 15 kilometers an hour, so 10 miles an hour, thereabouts. You can do that, and you can also choose a preference over whether you want the car to maintain that speed, or if the surface gets a little bit rougher and bumpier, it will slow the car down for you. So there's amazing, clever brain stuff going on in the heart of this car. It also has 63 electronic modules telling it what to do, from torque vectoring to balancing the handling of the car if it's in a sudden change of direction due to braking or a high-speed maneuver. So there's a lot of things that potentially could go wrong there, because there's 63 items of little brains saying do this, do that. That's a lot to think about. As you'd imagine, there's tons of storage, whether it's under here, an entire Volvic bottle just disappears. There's extra storage here for cup holders. Press a button here and you can bring down the top glove box. Door bins are good. There's extra storage down here beyond the controls. That's where your USB-C cables hang out, by the way, if you're looking for them, as I was for a couple of days. So an idiot could get in and work out how to take this thing off-road. But my question would be, look at it. Would you want to take this off-road? Would you want to risk scraping it, dragging the sump off something? Yes, you can adjust the height of the suspension to sort all those things out. I'm still not sure if I'd want to take my 125 grand Range Rover off-road though, even though it would be absolutely capable. The interior is just gorgeous. You get into this car and you feel like you've won the lotto every time you drive it because, well, for me, I'm just not used to hanging around with these types of cars, but I'm very happy to do so at the same time. And I love the way they have these old style from, well, certainly the Range Rover of the noughties armrests. They kind of kept them in. You don't necessarily need them because you have this bit, but they are still there. So lovely touches. Pre-program your EV mode. For the morning, you can have it nice and toasty. You can preserve battery. So if you get to a low emissions area, you can have battery inside, and you can pause that at different settings up to 80% of range being preserved for a later time in your journey. Just some facts on the actual battery of the car. It's a 31.8 kilowatt hour battery, 105 kilowatt motor. It's about 143 brake horsepower. You can charge it at home on a wall box in 5 hours. You'll achieve that. But it also has DC charging. So you can plug this into a CCS charger at a 50 kilowatt and charge it to 80% in 40 minutes. And I could count on probably that hand the amount of cars I reviewed that are a PHEV that can use DC charging. It's pretty much unheard of. So that's very useful. You do, of course, feel like you're driving something that weighs over 3 ton at many, many instances throughout your journey. But in terms of going fast in a straight line, this thing can keep up with the best of them. Now, if you have enough charge, you've obviously got so much power, an abundance of power, you would say, but you can just astonishingly just cruise along in dead silence. They've pumped in, I'm not trying to simplify it for you, I'm trying to simplify it for both of us, what sounds like what happens when you get noise cancelling headphones into the cabin of the car. It can use how much noise is going on at the wheel arches to determine how much it needs. And like, there is not much of the outside world you are hearing when you're cruising along on this thing. Even on the 22-inch, it's sometimes a little bit hard. It is a Range Rover Sport. Like, there's some potholes there now, and here's some more now, but it's okay. Like, you wouldn't go over it and start wincing and going, I'm going to buckle one of these very expensive alloys that I've spec'd on my Range Rover Sport. Now, obviously, this is a brand new car. There's 4,000 kilometers on it, but there is not a rattle, not a squeak out of it. It is so refined on the inside. But yeah, there's just constant reminders of what you're driving and how big it is, and you'll never really kind of get away from that, because no matter how much technology, and that's kind of seems to be what's happening with cars, they're getting heavier and manufacturers are putting in different gadgets that can do different things to make this wheel spin less and make this handling situation feel less abrupt and invasive than it is. And that's fine, but there comes a point where it's like, is this a computer or is this a car, or which is it? And by the way, it sounds nice on full chat. That 6-cylinder engine is glorious. There is a V8, of course, as well, and if you buy some of the early editions of the full fat Range Rover Sport, they're throwing loads of extras at it. But really, fuel economy, I don't think there's going to be anything that can beat this. Like, this is doing between 6.9 and 7.3 litres per 100 kilometres. And you probably won't get the full 100 kilometres of electric juice that Land Rover claim, but you'd probably get 80. It depends on temperatures and stuff like that. And obviously, if you drive in electric mode, pure electric mode, on a motorway, you will eat through that range. But if you were doing the just everyday stuff, like Land Rover say, well, most journeys are less than 100 kilometres per day. I suppose that really does depend on what you're doing. The massive price differences, however, like this car is starting from 111,000. Now, you mightn't want to spend $3,000 on a glass sunroof. It is nice, but beyond that, and a few like the upgraded alloys and stuff, there's not a huge amount of additional spec on this car in the context of the price. You know, $12,000, yeah, that's the price of a small car, but you know what I mean. But the price point now tops out at €220,000 for the top of the range Range Rover Sport, and that is like €110,000, €109,000 extra. Why would you do that to yourself? I don't care how much money you have. And in fact, if you do have the money that can afford one of these, you're probably not that reckless with your money anyway. So I'm not sure who is going to buy the full fat Range Rover Sport, but this one is certainly very, very interesting and luxurious and all the things that it claims to be when you're behind the wheel of it. Fact. Now, I have done some kind of lane changes on motorway speeds, and yeah, I mean, all the stuff it says it will do, it does well. Like, there isn't a huge amount of body roll if you do a kind of a last minute lane change at 100 kilometers an hour, 120 kilometers an hour, depending on what you're on. So it is quite well behaved, actually, for the size of it. One thing you will get in that more expensive Range Rover is the rear steering to 7.3 degrees. Certainly for slower driving, that will help you maneuver. It can use up to 1,000 pounds per foot of torque to combat lateral forces, to let the car not topple, to make it feel a bit more stable if you were in some sort of high-speed maneuver where last minute you had to avoid a car with 3 ton underneath you. I don't want to test that, but it's there apparently if you need it. Good to know. As much as this is the affordable version of the Range Rover Sport, if the word affordable can be used, I suppose the electric one, which is coming in 2024, is going to be very, very interesting. Now, you can use the electric mode on this off-road as well, and I assume it'll be the same. Well, it'll have to be the same in the full BEV version of it. But what range is that going to get you? It's like, let's assume it's going to be heavier again because it will have more batteries on board. So is it going to be 3.5 ton? Is it going to be closer to 4 tons? How will they manage that weight? And what will they do with it? So look, it's very interesting that they can make something in such a relatively short space of time. 2024, full electric version of the Range Rover coming. I'm just curious as to, you know, what other will there be 126 electric modules on it to sort it out then? I just, who knows? But look, if you're after pure luxury, if you don't mind people looking at you, certain people like they want to kill you because you have a car like this, the Range Rover is better again than it was. I mean, I know someone who has a Vogue and has had a few Vogues and loves them and would never buy anything less. But I said to them during the week, the Sport now feels like it's closed the gap. Now, the full-on Range Rover is €143,000 starting from. Hoping to have that on the channel soon, if they'll let me have it. But I just feel where the Range Rover Sport in the past could have been compared to the Vogue, and some people might feel it's a bit crass looking or it's too in your face. There isn't even a PHEV badge on this. It's just subtle. And I think anyone who in the past had a Range Rover, Vogue, HSE, could easily get into one of these. And I don't think they'd feel like it's a downgrade. For people like me and you, it's never going to be a downgrade. But for those people, I think they could get into it and be happy enough. It's big, it's bold, it will make a statement wherever you go. And if you're okay with all of those things, you're going to love this. So there you have it, the Range Rover Sport PHEV, brand new model on the market. It's hard not to love it, you know. You can't put that much effort and thought and money into a chunk of luxury on 4 wheels and not expect to like it. The question is, how tolerant will other road users be if you're okay with the disapproving looks that these vehicles kind of get more and more these days? It's something to think about. At least you can say, well, actually I can pull up to the school in 0 emissions. What can your car do? It is a huge chunk of change for a car. I doubt too many people watching this video with the actual money to buy one of these are thinking, well, I could drive that on an electric mode for €7 a day, thereabouts. But it's true. I mean, in one charge of the battery, if on the full rate here in Ireland, which is about 42 cent, is about €13. So 100 kilometers-ish for €13, it's actually not bad to move something that weighs over 3 tons. Anyway, sadly I have to give it back. But if you're in the enviable position of being able to buy one of these, I would seriously consider it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.